On the 2nd of March 2018, J-Hope released his first solo album, Mixtape, Hope World Mixtape, in which he familiarized us for the first time with the song Blue Side outro. 3 years later, on the same date, he released an extended version of this song, the first version still being the core of the entire song, setting the theme and the lyrics around which J-Hope tries to define his beginnings. On the 15th of July 2022, J-Hope released his first official album, Jack in the Box. In this album, too, he pays homage to his beginnings, but this time, his feelings and lyrics come from another place, being of a deeper and darker nature inside of himself. One of these main questions explored being the one from the song What If. On the 29th of March 2024, J-Hope released his second official album, Hope on the Street Volume I, where we can find an extended version of this song, signed as a dance mix. What If? Dance mix. Personally, after being touched with J-Hope's heart for almost years, I always saw him as a person highly aware of himself, being conscious and honest about both what he is good at and the points or aspects he lacks or still has to work more on, as he is mostly critical about everything he does, including his art, which is a medium through which he exposes to the world sides of himself, alongside the connection he creates through his dance that was his first step into the world of music. I always admired him for these qualities, and while all this time, when listening to the extended version of Blue Side, I kept thinking of how one must have such a good and extensive understanding of music in order to produce such a song. When I listened to What If? Dance Mix, somehow these two songs connected in my brain. Later, while going again through their lyrics, I realized that it is because of the deeper introspection he did while writing the extended parts for both. A thing that, honestly, awestruck me and made me admire even more his ability to look into himself and be entirely honest with each single side of himself, while giving equal light and recognition to each. Although the aim of the video is to understand how Blue Side is the song that connects J-Hope's art and his two albums Hope World and Jack in the Box, which later resulted in Hope on the Street Volume 1, both of these songs represent a deeper introspection of himself, a process which I think highly defines him. Therefore, beyond understanding the role of Blue Side as the pillar of his art, a song for which I have another analysis video I highly recommend you check, we will also look into what do these extended versions of these two songs mean in J-Hope's artistry. Surely, there are some similarities and differences between both, but, firstly, I think that what connects them both is the fact that in both extended versions he goes even deeper in trying to understand what made those first thoughts so special and expands on those ideas while paying homage to two main aspects of his beginning. The current still burning passion that has its root in his inner child and the name which gave that passion life. Blue Side is about his inner child and that place he goes when he wants to remember why he started music and feels the need to connect to that innocent part of himself that, as small as it was, drove him to where he is. He starts with a simple feeling, blue vibe, some feeling that wind and sky would bring. Although he didn't begin with a big agenda when writing this song, he said this song brings him back to the days when he was naive and clueless, blue sky and wine that are full of good memories. On the same note, it is important to acknowledge that he said that he started working on the song after he finished verse 1, his first solo release on SoundCloud as a single. This further reinforces the significance this song has in his art, being a defining aspect since the beginning of his solo artist journey. This simple feeling of the clueless times later developed into a letter to his younger self where he describes what does that simple blue vibe mean to him. In order to understand the roots of this song better, I highly recommend reading his letter about this song, which I will link in the description below. Blue Side was presented to us in the album, where jhope first tried to define himself by his name, an album full of hope, hopeful not only through its lyrics, but also through its genre and musicality. As a result, this song has a soft echo of hope in being able to always return to that place and state that gave him enough hope to keep on going until the other extreme of hope. As everything, hope has to a bright and a dark side. This darker side of hope is explored in his second album, where the J found another name beyond the supposed origin, Ynghoziok. Now, this J represents the Jack in the Box, that beyond having the supposed meaning of happiness, laugh, and surprises, also defines itself as luring or deceiving. I believe that, taking from this perspective, the extended version of Blue Side being released between these two albums, the Jack in the Box being also present on the art cover of the song, represents such a beautiful and meaningful bridge between the two albums and, maybe, also the point or the question mark where the last thing in Pandora's box showed its true face, and when it got revealed the true nature of the so-called surprise that the toy brings. Moreover, when talking about this bridge between the hopeful child jhope and the jhope confronted with the reality of hope, the toy inside the box becomes a symbol which represents the transition from ideal to reality. How the hope in the box could have represented an alluring toy for the children to hold into, which later got him in the game he had to play until the end once he assumed for himself that name. And so, at once with these questions that were meant to define him entirely, he also explored the other side of his name, the darker one. What would have he become had he not got this name, and where did this name bring him? In the album interview, as he was introducing this track, jhope said, in some sense, the name jhope is what made me who I am. As a regular human being, Ynghoziok, as young Hoziok, who doesn't have anything, would I have been still able to tell stories that I can tell as jhope? Isn't it extremely arrogant to think that I would have been able to do so even if I had nothing? I've been thinking about this constantly. This seems like a main theme of his album, as his first song, Pandora's Box, emphasizes the weight the choice of his name brings. The mention of the innocent young boy brings us back to Blue Side, and that point in his experience with his passion and art that keeps him connected to himself, further explained in my interpretation of Blue Side I talked about before. In all these doubts, in the extended version, he realizes that, in the end, what truly stayed at the core of these questions was that deep seed planted in his heart in which his younger self had always believed in, but which had its shadows too. That realization made him aware that, maybe, indeed, this path was what was always meant for him, as his passion talked to him through those visions, which might have been the same dreams and aspirations he had since young, and that made him embrace his name fully. Although he went through that deep analysis of his name in the first version, in the end he came back to the conclusion that he should continue be the hope, no matter how hard it was. Despite everything, there were signs, and he could always go back to that self that believed in him and made him who he is today in order to get that confirmation that he is on the right path, and this is indeed what he is meant to do. Despite this heavy burden, if he was able to make it until now, then it truly might be for him. Surely, everything has its bright and dark side, and now that he overcame that shadow that made him doubtful of his name that became a symbol, he was now able to embrace it fully again, more proudly than before. Undoubtedly, time offers clarity and answers, such as it might have done in jhope's case. However, what I believe that is truly outstanding in his case is the ability to catch those fleeting realizations, incorporating them into an already immortalized moment, giving them freedom in another shape while maintaining their initial nature and integrity. The initial versions of these songs still have their own meaning and story, while these extended versions are not a reality of him outgrowing them, but proof of being able to grow in and through them. Thank you so much for staying until the end. Discussions or questions about lyrics are always more than welcomed in the comments. I would also love to know what you think about this one. Let's enjoy their art together. Apabantho.